Liftoff.
Weekend Confirmed Question Week. I'm Garnett Lee, joined by Andre Renee and Indy Jeff Mattis. Today's is from Automatonton. It says, with the popularity of Borderlands 4-player co-op RPG stylings, will we see more 4-player co-op RPGs instead of MMOs? No, probably not.
Well,
that's a short answer.
I think the first problem is
Done. No, we're done. That's it.
Is Borderlands is primarily is shooter first and RPG second.
Yes.
So that's where I think I don't think you're going to see more like really heavily story driven, dialogue exchanges and cutscenes that aren't in the MMO category or the RPG category that are co-op, just because when you're sitting on a couch you want to get to the next piece of action, or playing online you want to get to the next piece of action.
It's a middle ground. It's a middle ground that's really challenging for role-playing games to tackle. So when you're playing a role-playing game that is story-driven, or for instance on the Western side very character development driven, part of what's cool about it is it's your experience. You're playing through it as you want to, when you want to, how you want to, and it would be disruptive to have even a single co-op player with you, much less three other people with you. Now, I think you will see a lot of this sort of play in MMO lights or MMO variants, where you're going to get that sort of instanced play where it's you and a group playing through a group action, but you're still playing your character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important part of like Guild Wars 2, which it looks fantastic. And Guild Wars 2 will have giant events that you take place in, a la MMO. It'll have instance dungeons that you go into. I think it's part of what World of Warcraft is doing in its 5-player raids, trying to make a little more intimate setting. But for the role-playing game, having that singular experience and having you be in charge of, I want to stay up till 3 a.m. tonight and play this thing and not worry about whether my co-op partners are there or whether they can meet up with me, is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also a lot to be said about the kind of the technical aspect of having RPG co-ops versus MMOs too.
Sure.
I mean, especially with the huge free-to-play push in the MMO world that's happening right now. I mean, we're just starting to see shooters kind of venture into that, with Tribes, and Hawken, which is coming for console,
Hawken looks badass.
which is going to be a really cool kind of experiment to see. But I agree with you. I don't think that they're going to overtake MMOs anytime, ever.
And we love our RPG experience. Don't get me wrong. The
yeah.
RPG experience is great because it's the opposite of the dip in, dip out shooter. Even if it's co-op, it's dip in and dip out. It's all about when can I have someone freely join in or leave without breaking my experience. And you can't do that in a cohesive, narrative-driven, character-based story RPG. There you go. Bam! Boom, blew it up. Question of the week. Send us your questions through Twitter or through our Facebook page. And thanks. We'll be back next week.
Jeff Kanata and Garnett Lee. And this week's question comes from Carrick KJ. He says, he's asking about undiscovered gems, and he says, does information overload reduce the surprise factor? Finding out too much information beforehand about a game. As an enthusiast, me personally, it doesn't ruin the surprise at all. I mean, if there's something...